Hello, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to another video. If you are new to this channel, my name is Frank Zhu, and I'm a college professor teaching sociology, history, and philosophy. I'm also an award-winning landscape photographer. We all want to be morally good people. However, different people have different moral values and judgments. The standard for a good person varies from individual to individual, and it also varies from culture to culture. Besides, many of us believe that how good we are depends on how others perceive us. We are good in the eyes of some people, not so in the eyes of others. For example, your boss at the workplace may speak highly of you as a good employee, but you may be a mean person in the eyes of your colleagues. You are a good friend to some, but not so to others. So, how do you tell that someone is really good? How wonderful it would be if there were universal rules or criteria by which we could judge everyone in the same way. Well, a very famous German philosopher by the name Immanuel Kant claimed that he had discovered the rules by which we could judge the moral value of every human action. And he claimed that those rules were universal, not depending on anyone's opinion. In today's video, I'm going to first take a brief look at his life and then examine his ethical rules and see how valid they are and how they can be applied universally. Immanuel Kant is considered as the greatest Western philosopher since the ancient Greek times. As a philosopher, he did comprehensive and systematic studies in many areas in philosophy, such as epistemology, ethics, and aesthetics, and he hugely influenced many subsequent philosophers in the West. Kant was also a published author on scientific topics such as geography and physical science. Before he became famous, he even wrote essays on different subjects, earning himself the recognition as a popular essayist. The life of Kant was a good example of how a person should be guided by his own principles and not the opinions of others. In the eyes of a 21st century person like you and me, the daily life of Kant in the 18th century was extremely boring and very eccentric. In his entire life, he never traveled more than 60 miles away from his birthplace in a small town in Germany. He lived most of his life on a rigid schedule, which he had developed when he was a church school pupil. Every day, he did everything at a fixed time, rising from bed, drinking coffee, writing, lecturing, eating, walking, and going to bed. His neighbors did not need a clock to tell what time it was when they saw him stepping out and walking onto a small road, which, by the way, was later named after him. In fact, many of his neighbors set their clocks by his daily walks. No matter what season it was, he would walk up and down the same road 8 times a day, even in rain, when his servant would hold an umbrella for him. Only once did he miss his walk, when he became so absorbed in reading a philosophy book by Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Besides, he had few friends and talked little outside of his lecture room at a nearby university, although he was a very popular professor. The strict schedule and self-discipline, plus the lack of social activities, also enabled him to devote much of his time to doing philosophical thinking. In my opinion, the self-discipline was a major reason for his precise logical thinking. One can hardly find any self-contradictions in his works. Speaking of his books, I have to say that almost all of his books are extremely difficult to read, partly because he relied on logical thinking and rarely provided examples, and partly because he often gave new meanings to Latin words or invented new phrases in German. If you, as a philosophy student, could finish a book by him, you would forever boast about it to your fellow students. Kant thought a lot about what constituted a good life. According to him, a good life was composed of 4 ingredients: self-knowledge, morality, courage, and rationality. His contributions to the study of ethics was huge. According to him, the source of morality is reason. Therefore, how good we are does not depend on how others see us. Our morality comes from within us. You are good as long as you have good moral principles and act on them. Don't worry about other people's opinions. Kant was opposed to both utilitarianism and consequentialism. For him, you are good or bad depends on the motivation of your actions and not on the goodness or the consequences of those actions. What you do can have moral value only if you are motivated by morality to do it. To put it another way, if your emotions or desires cause you to take an action, then that action cannot give them moral worth. For example, you just won the lottery and you are looking around to see where to spend the money. You decide that it would be fun to give the money to charity so that you would enjoy the feeling of making some people happy. By doing so, you probably feel that you are doing good. However, in the eyes of Kant, you are not a morally worthy person because you did this for your own sake, and therefore there is nothing admirable for selfish action. Instead, he argued, moral worth only comes when you do something because you know it is your duty and you would do it no matter what. It is fine if you enjoy doing it, but it must be the case that you would do it even if you would not enjoy it. To be a good person, you must be good for goodness' sake. In philosophy, this theory, which uses rules to distinguish right from wrong, is known as deontology. By the way, if you are interested in knowing more about Kant's deontology and its main principles, please check out my video on him. I will leave a link down below. Immanuel Kant was a lecturer and later on a full professor at the University of Königsberg. He taught a broad range of courses in philosophy, such as logic, metaphysics, and ethics. He also taught physics and mathematics. He even taught a popular course on physical geography. His style in teaching, which was humorous and vivid, was very different from his style in writing, which was bookish and boring. His lectures were so popular that it was necessary for his students to be an hour early in order to be sure of a place in the lecture hall. Well, I think that is all that I wanted to talk about in today's video. As always, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.